I had plenty of opportunity to get all kinds of sports prognosticators, athletes, former athletes, and all kinds of people on the podcast to get ready for the upcoming NHL season. And I turned them all down because I wanted the bits back. And they're back.
Reluctantly.
This podcast, reluctantly sponsored by ThompsonMortgages.com. In 2025 and 2026, almost 60% of Canadian mortgages will come up for renewal. If yours is one of them, you need to have a good mortgage broker on your side. Contact ThompsonMortgages.com and tell them you heard about them here on this podcast.
Reluctantly.
We have Paulina, we have Claire, we have Quinn, the Bits, YEG on Instagram, and thebits.ca is the website. They've got a, how should I describe it without sounding like an ass? A women's point of view of sport? Is that?
Yeah, for the casual sports fan, we accept all levels of interest.
And your podcast is terrific. I know you took some time off over the course of the summer, and Paulina, you had a baby. Congratulations! Last time we spoke, you were pregnant, so that's all come to fruition. And what's boy, girl? What happened? Name, everything, pounds, ounces.
We had a girl, and her name is Clark.
Oh, I love that. Probably an exterior illumination expert in the making.
100%, yeah. Or a future basketball star.
Okay, but her middle name's not Griswold, is it?
No, but those jokes that's actually why I named her, is for the jokes at Christmas time.
She will be wearing glasses, like dark rim glasses for Halloween. And she'll have gel in her hair. And then we'll put a cape on her and take the glasses off halfway through the evening.
I love it when women have names like Stevie and Clark and Eldon.
Well, so does my wife, because we, just quick context for the name, we couldn't agree on any girl names. I had lots that I liked, but my wife Sarah did not really vibe with any of them, and so we went with the boy name that we had. If Clark had been born a boy, that's what we would have named her or him.
Awesome.
It had been a boy.
Well, again,
so that's what we went with.
Congratulations on the baby. Quinn, Claire, next.
Oh, no, count me out. I have 2 cats. Those are my children. And that's the way we will keep it.
We have a 2.5-year-old, and we are in peak hand, foot, and mouth time of year. And so I think that pretty much closes the door on any idea of having more children for us. But we named our child Sebastian, and I got a lot of like Little Mermaid jokes because of the little crab, which I like.
Yeah, at least it's a beautiful little crab.
We play that song a lot, Under the Sea.
Isn't it funny how people have so many opinions about the names of babies that people choose? Like when my kids were born, we named them John and Kate. Well, I had no idea that was the height of the popularity of the John and Kate +8 reality show.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. Right.
That was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, John and Kate +8. Not that I ever watched that show. I'm sure Paulina did. But only because, bless your heart, you keep up with all that pulp culture.
I love reality TV. I will say I wasn't big on like the TLC shows, but of course everyone knew about John and Kate +8. Sorry, Terry.
Yes.
Yeah. You were the only one maybe who didn't.
Well, we wanted a strong name for our daughter, and then John, we call him Riley. He's named after his grandfather, Jody's dad, and his middle name, Riley, is named for B.B. King. So
cool.
That's
cool.
That all.
I love
really cool.
the name Kate. I love the name Kate. It's very classic. I think it's a good one.
And it's Kate, not Katie, not Catherine, not Kathleen, not none of that bullshit. It's Kate.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, I'm sure she gets it all, though. I'm sure she gets Katie a lot because people are just like assume that there's no way it's just Kate.
Paulina, what's
People
like
are
the
dumb.
number one
Let's just-
joke that you get for Clark? Do you get a lot of jokes? I've only heard the Clark Kent one. That's why I shared that.
So
I think it was.
I did have one person text me and say, "Did you name her after Caitlin Clark?" And I said, I don't expect her to have any athletic ability, but if she does, then we will go with that. But the number one joke that I get is definitely Clark Griswold. And the Christmas Vacation is my favorite Christmas movie. So I actually have no problem with that. And I'm going to be using the save the neck for me Clark jokes until I run them dead into the ground.
Am I the first one to bring up the exterior illumination thing?
You are.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the first time I've gotten that one. And I'm like, okay, yep, that makes sense. All right.
And then if you're going to name a baby after the characters of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, I guess Clark is a better way to go than Eddie.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Or Snots, the name of the dog that they bring in the motorhome.
or like Rusty. Like, I mean, Clark's a good one. I don't mind.
Yeah.
You done good.
Okay. Yeah. I think are we all caught up on the family tree business?
Yes.
Yeah.
We could probably go on for another 15 minutes.
We can go on about anything. I think you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the bits is we can just talk about, you throw a topic at us and we will dive into it. We'll try our best.
We'll find a way. Yeah. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a topic. It just happens organically. That's the best conversation I like to have. That's the one. And that brings me around to the reason why I've asked the three of you back on the Reluctantly podcast. Because first of all, it's sports podcast, thebits.ca, the website at thebitsyeg, and you can follow it on all the streaming places for the podcast. But the other thing was the NHL is starting up on October 8th, which this will be released on the morning of the 7th. So for all intents and purposes, if people are listening on the first day that it's available, the NHL season starts tomorrow. And like I said off the top, I had the opportunity to have all kinds of people on the podcast to talk about the upcoming NHL season, the Oilers and everything like that. But I wanted to invite you back because since we did our first podcast together on the Reluctantly podcast, yours has been the most listened to podcast of all of the ones I've done, over 60 recordings.
Whoa.
Wow.
How cool is that?
No way.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're going to take it. And that's beating like Brian Baumler, right?
Yeah. So I'll run through the top 5. Coming in at number 5, Darby Mills of the Headpins. All right. Coming in at number 4 is The Christmas Story. I did Riley's story with my son. And that's just a shorty little podcast called Riley's Story. Coming in at number 3, Brian Baumler, Measure Twice, Cut Once. And it looks like I might be doing another podcast with Baumler because he's coming for the renovation show. Coming in at number 2, Tom Cochran. The first one I did with Tom, I've done 2 with Tom Cochran. This one was the one where he told the story about opening for a one-armed stripper back in the day. And,
Okay.
And we beat that?
We beat the one-armed stripper.
Coming in at number 1 is the Reluctantly podcast with the Bits. So,
Bow, 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 bow.
Oh, I don't have that sound effect. Do you have that?
That's okay. Claire has it.
Yeah, I have it. It's used for very special occasions.
Yeah.
Yes. NHL playoffs and coming in second or first, sorry.
Yeah. So that's why you're back. And thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it. And there's lots of sports stuff. I mean, it's fall, it's sports time. It's the height of everything that's happening. We're just over the Ryder Cup. We've got the Oil Kings jumping back in. If you're looking from a local aspect in the Edmonton area, we've got the Elks struggling to make the playoffs. We've got the Blue Jays wrapping up their division. We've got the
NFL.
And NFL is into week 4, I guess. You can see Paulina's wearing her Eagles hat. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
And so where do you want to start? Should we start with the Elks? Start with the big turd right off the hop?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's not a whole heck of a lot to say, but yeah, let's do it.
I'll be honest, we don't watch as much Elks as we should. We're big NFL fans on the Bits podcast.
I love going to an Elks game, but unfortunately this summer just wasn't the time for me to go. But
Yeah.
I mean, I still I do watch them, just not as much as I watch NFL.
Are you telling me you haven't taken Clark to an Elks game yet with the headphones on her as big as her head so that it looks
we did try to put headphones on her. Where were we even going? I don't know. She's probably just like hanging out in our house, and I'm a loud person, so we probably just tried to put headphones on.
Quinn
her just
came
to
over.
exist in our home.
Quinn came over. You got
Quinn came over, and we were just shouting at each other in a regular conversation. I did try to put those headphones on her, and her head was too small. Still, she's 2 months yesterday, so she's still pretty tiny. But maybe a late season game she'll be ready.
I've never understood why people take their infants to sporting events.
Yeah, it's really
It seems like an awful experience for both the infant and mostly the parent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nobody's having fun.
Nobody's having fun in that scenario. Yeah.
No. And yeah, especially if babies do what babies do, and all of a sudden, you're 10 minutes into the first period, and they're
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that
Time to
those
go home.
adults they're in like that phase of like that dream phase, Paulina, that you said, like you're not really sure what time it is or what day it is, and you're operating on fumes, and you're like, this would be a good idea. And then you do it, and it's just like anxiety. And you see, it's like we have a friend who went to Folk Fest almost immediately after she gave birth. And the way she describes it now is like, I was just like on all this adrenaline. Manic behavior. It's like, this is fine. I'm having so much fun. And just like, but a total disaster. And she looks back and was like, what was I thinking? And I think you're just like,
you do go a little bit crazy.
Life is normal. I'm just going to do everything I did before I had a baby.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, which is a lie that you tell yourself for 18 years.
And then there's the people who just do it. They do it more than once. And those are the type of people that I think run like ultra marathons. They're just different. They have a different threshold.
Yeah.
Speaking of marathons, did you see the New York City Marathon that happened just in the last couple of weeks, where it was a half marathon, so 13 whatever miles, and they had to run, and every mile there was a bakery. They had to eat a baked good during the marathon.
That's motivating. Although by the end,
every mile. See, like if that was like every 5 miles, different story, because at least you've like burned something. But like every mile that also is my nightmare, because I'm not a big baked goods guy. So like on top of it, I'd be like forcing something down that I don't really like. This is like why running anything is a terrible idea. Just don't run.
Here's the thing about running. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, why?
Even if your Apple
you don't
Watch
have
tells
to run.
you to.
You could do literally anything else, and it's fine.
Yeah, I always think if you're running, you're a bad planner. You should have left earlier.
Yes. And like you shouldn't. Yeah. I mean, the only time you really should run is when you're afraid.
Yeah.
That is really just all that it is.
Or
and
your
adrenaline will kick in and you won't feel anything.
I had this rant once about movies that feature the characters running too much. Like, it felt like it was always some sort of indie movie or whatever, and the characters are like running to where they need to go. And I'm like, people don't just run to where they need to go. Like, enough of that in a movie. If you're running, you are being chased, or you're like seriously late. You're not just running to like meet somebody midway through the street or like get to a location. I just, enough.
You don't like kick into slow jog mode when you're trying to get across the street?
Oh, I run in slow motion sometimes for dramatic effect.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I have such bad knees that if I do have to hustle across the street, it's like this like limp.
Quinn,
and so then I just look ridiculous, and people must be like, is she 102? And so I just really try to avoid it at all costs, because I can't just start running on my knee because it's so bad.
Well, we're also aware of like your, very real fear of falling. And so you throw running into that and like, that's just a bad idea.
I'm going down harder. Yeah. And
So,
faster.
Terry,
What
what you're seeing here is that we will talk about anything except the CFL.
Well, and I'm right into it too, because the first thing that I thought, when you're starting talking about running, is recently I watched Black Rabbit, the Jason Bateman, Jude Law
Yes.
series.
Okay.
And then I just saw something, I think it was last night, I saw a behind the scenes thing of Tom Cruise from one of his Mission Impossible movies. Now, there's a couple of guys who are in my snack bracket as far as age is concerned. And it looked, I don't like watching them run on the big screen or on television. I'm 60. I should not be running. I'm the same as you, Quinn. I have the worst knees. I popped both of them out. They've both been dislocated. My hips are bad. Like if I start running even to cross the street, there is a very good possibility. Remember those toys where you would push the bottom and they'd all just go like that?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
At any point, that's what could happen to this body. At one time, it was a sports
machine.
It's not
And how
anymore.
annoying to see Tom Cruise running
no one should
everywhere,
really-
Like just walk.
Well, no one should compare themselves to Tom Cruise. I don't know what he's doing or what like placenta he's eating as part of his Scientology initiation. Like, I don't know, annual membership. But that guy's in a league of his own. And also like Mission Impossible movies, he's like the action star of all action stars as far as I'm concerned. He's got to be running. I mean, that's what he's doing best. So let's not make ourselves feel too bad about that.
Can you imagine if Tom Cruise walked in all of the scenes that he's running in Mission Impossible? The movie would be 5.5 hours long instead of 3 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be like a regular released movie nowadays. Yeah.
Or speed walking. Like there always has to be a foot on the ground.
I was thinking about that and how funny it would be to see Tom Cruise speed walking. I think it would be really funny.
Like the hips are going.
Short little legs. He would speed walk better than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of things better than anyone else, I guess.
He does his own stunts, as is mentioned every time he is brought up by anyone and by him.
Okay, so the Elks are in last place in the West, and and they have a lot of work to do to even get a sniff of the crossover, and we've covered the Elks now. And
you know what? I'll say a couple things. I'm really hopeful for Mark Killam. Like, I really hope that this isn't kind of the end. I guess if they could run the table here and finish 9-9, he's a really good guy, really, really good guy. And, they've beaten some good teams this year. They beat Saskatchewan and then they lost. Like, I mean, it's a different story. They lost 2 games against Eastern teams in just like horrible fashion, 2 in a row. And then it's a different story because now all of a sudden you're 8-7, right? So you're right in the mix, but they don't, it's about how many games you actually win. So we're seeing them improve. I'll say nice things about them. We're seeing them improve.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is reluctantly sponsored by ThompsonMortgages.com. Did you know that 60% of all Canadian mortgages are set to renew in 2025 and 2026? Is yours one of them? If so, don't just DocuSign that email from whatever lender is holding your mortgage right now. Contact Mike or John at ThompsonMortgages.com and find out if they can find you a more favorable financial situation. Rates are different now than they were 5 years ago. It'll have an impact on your monthly payment. Should you be on a fixed or a variable term? Should you stay where you are? Or maybe move to another lender for your next term? These are all questions that can easily be answered by ThompsonMortgages.com at no cost to you. The lender pays. You benefit from the service and the great advice of the Thompson Mortgage team. Contact them through ThompsonMortgages.com and tell them you heard about them on the Reluctantly podcast.
Reluctantly.
NFL action, what is it, week 4 that just wrapped up? Yeah, week 4 that just wrapped up. Paulina, Eagles fan. Claire, your favorite team in the NFL?
Also an Eagles fan.
Okay, Quinn.
I am a Green Bay Packers fan.
Oh, the green and
But you also
gold.
love the Eagles, like
I
me.
do like the Eagles. I do
You
have a
love
very
the Green Bay
special place
Packers.
in my heart for the
Yeah.
Eagles, and it did start with Carson Wentz when he was there. Obviously, long gone from there, but they're, you know, if the Packers were out, I would cheer very hard for the Eagles.
I will say if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said that the top Super Bowl contenders are the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens, and now I have a different answer for that, such as NFL, right? So I'm gonna say the Eagles and the Bills are the top contenders now because Baltimore has some unfortunate problems that like with Lamar and his injury, and it's just not looking great. And then Green Bay is in a weird place. Like they're supposed to have this incredible defense and just got, Dallas lit them up, and then Dallas is supposed to have terrible defense, and they tied that game up with them. So it's unfortunate because I was hoping to see Green Bay, make it to the Super Bowl this year, but we'll see. A lot can change.
Still early.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's still early, but I'm seeing some cracks.
Well, and
Okay.
wide
Yep.
receivers are dropping like flies.
Oh yeah, Hill went down with a dislocated knee in
Yep.
Miami, yeah, it's I mean injuries just with the mass of humanity that's crumpling into each other at such high speed. But it's
Mhm.
any sport, any physical sport now, hockey, football, rugby, all of that
Oh,
stuff. So
Well,
rugby.
that's an interesting point. Yeah, that's an interesting point because I was thinking about how, like Terry, I don't know if you play fantasy football. All three of us play fantasy football and have for a long time, but it's always been a frustrating game to play. Like it's so fun and I look forward to it every year, but like it's a very frustrating activity.
Yep.
And injuries is a big part of that. I'm starting to feel like fantasy football is becoming almost too frustrating for me to take nowadays because the injuries are just so rampant. Like they're worse than they've ever, like last year or the year before, it was like we were using running back like six, like RB6, like, guys that nobody's even heard of because there's just everyone was injured and we were using the most random like had the most random rosters. And I don't know. I don't know if you guys find that. Like, I'm like, is this the way it's going? And maybe it's fantasy football's taking a turn for me.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, they're just so like that's the thing is that they keep getting bigger and faster and stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, every sport does, right? And that's kind of the idea. But at what point, yeah, does it become literally too dangerous?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't thinking about the well-being of the players. I was thinking about the well-being of my leagues, but yes,
Yeah,
that also for sure. But I'm just the way they play the
totally.
game now is so like the way they're playing the game, it's like, how do you not get injured every week? Like it's
I
too
know.
insane. So I don't know. It's fantasy football's killing me, man.
So, Paulina, you're like, who gives a shit if they can walk again or walk if they're 35? I just want to know if I'm going to be okay in my fantasy football.
Listen.
I'm like, career-ending injury. Oh my God. I had him in 3 leagues.
Yeah, I don't have a quarterback now.
Sarah, my wife is like, can you be just be a human for a second and think of what just came out of your mouth? Like, yes, okay. Well, if I take a second, I can understand this is very serious.
So here's another thing. We were just rattling off physical sports, and the thing that the pro sports, the thing that is in the forefront of your mind is men playing those physical sports. But recently, the Canada's women's rugby team was just
Oh
achieved
yeah.
something that. Did anybody guess that was going
Oh,
to happen? Was it just an incredible achievement? I mean, they played against England for the World Championship.
what a amazing story too to see. That was all grit and passion and dedication, and they had to fight for every inch to get there, and they did, and it was just very cool. I thought, although they didn't close it in the end, and England was just incredible in that final. to play in front of that crowd, the away team, and it was just all class the whole way. They fought to the very end. So it was very proud moment as a Canadian to watch those ladies do that.
It was interesting, watching some of the coverage leading up to it as well, because I mean, obviously rugby isn't something in Canada that we pay a lot of attention to, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of rugby critics said like Canada's been in the mix for a while. They've really developed a really good program. And they've really been under the radar in Canada, probably because I know that one of the New Zealand players was talking about how like they're a great team. We always knew it was going to be a tough match. And then Alona from the US, she did a whole thing about I know people think this is a surprise with Canada, but they've been developing this program for a while, and they're really, really good and really fast and really smart. So I guess it's time for all of us in Canada to kind of get on the rugby train, because it turns out that we actually have a really good women's program. And isn't that just the same story with so many things? Like our women's soccer program is just obviously so much better than the men's. The men's are getting better, obviously, because of Alfonso. But, the women
they've been good for a while.
The torch a little. Yeah.
With the women's soccer program in Canada and the retirement of
Christine Sinclair.
Christine Sinclair, yeah. What do we have in the future with that program that would lead us to believe that it's going to continue to be competitive in Olympics or World Cup equivalent on the female side?
I would say like they have been, for Christine Sinclair is amazing. I would say she hasn't been producing the points or even putting in the minutes on the field in the ways that she has for the last several years. I mean, she's my age. I don't know how she does it. I think about that all the time. And not to take away from her presence in their locker room and on the bench too, but I think that they've known this was coming, and they've invested in development for well over a decade on the women's side. The training camps that they have, like I don't know if there's one Christine Sinclair silver bullet. I doubt it, but I think that they've been investing in developing younger prospects for a long time. So I think that they've got a good pipeline of very capable players coming up behind Christine Sinclair.
And of course, the professional league that has, finally come to Canada.
Yeah.
Just going to continue to be able to develop more players. And that's the beauty, because it's kind of, I watched this. I know this is going to be very niche, but I watched this with swimming. Once Penny Alexiak was kind of, winning these medals, and even before her, like, there was a few swimmers before her, Kylie Moss for sure. Once your program starts to get good, you start to develop more, because it just breeds that competition, and it really shows people that they can get there. And so I think that's been such a big thing with women's soccer, especially. The sport continues to grow, and you're just going to produce more talent, and you have girls really wanting to play because they see that there's a really bright future in women's soccer, right? So same with women's hockey with the PWHL. Like the women are only going to continue to get way better, especially the Canadian women. It's going to be harder to make that team all the time because we're just producing so many athletes now because they see a path forward. For me, like I can say when I was swimming, we had a couple like really good swimmers, but they would go to the Olympics. They would the Olympics is hard, don't get me wrong, but they would be favored to win a medal. They wouldn't end up winning a medal. And it always just kind of was this, oh, we're just not that good, right? But now, you look at Summer McIntosh, Kylie Moss still, even on the men's side, Josh Liendo, like there's guys that are getting better, and it just breeds more and more. So I think that it's a really big uptick for, a lot of sports, including soccer and swimming.
We did a podcast with Dana Matheson on the Bits, so we'd love your listeners to check that out. Also retired from the Canadian women's team, who was the person who spearheaded the Northern Super League in Canada. And that's just exactly what Quinn's talking about. So not only developing young talent, but allowing the talent we do have to play here and not have to go to Europe and make that decision of, can they have a family and stay with their family and their support system here, or do they have to go overseas? And I think things like that are really important too, along with the representation and uh, being able to play more opportunities to play. So yeah, it's exciting. I think there's lots to come from the Canadian women, both in rugby and in soccer.
And there's so many other sports as well. The Canadian government has to be fair across the board as far as subsidizing or contributing funds for training, because when you get people in programs like the Penny Alexiaks who are world class, that brings more people to the
Mhm.
program, and that has to be fed with funding, right, for amateur sport. And it has to be even across the board. It can't be like synchronized swimming. There's always been a really, really strong contingent of synchronized swimming that go to the Olympic level from Canada, but they're all based out of Quebec. Well, you know what? Quebec subsidizes, the federal and provincial governments subsidize their
Mm.
programs there compared to every other province in the country. And it's bullshit, because what you have then is you have people from BC. And I ran into this with my daughter. It was one of those things where, hey, we got a great program and it costs a fortune for parents to put their kids through a synchronized swim program here in Alberta and BC, whatever the case may be. But hey, you know what? If your kid's good enough, they can go and be a part of the Quebec program. It's subsidized by the government, costs you way less. They get billeted out, and then there's higher echelon of training and stuff like that. And that's what pissed me off and really turned my nose up about that whole situation. I don't know how prevalent that is in other programs, other sports, but that one really pissed me off when I found out and learned more about that.
I would say it's probably quite similar as water polo. Quebec really, really produces a lot of the, top water polo players. And so the National Training Center is in Montreal. And yeah, like from Alberta, Calgary always produced pretty good players, and same with Vancouver, but it was nothing like, you couldn't come up in Edmonton and be that great, or Regina or anything like that. So you
Mhm.
definitely have to move. And you're right. I mean, you look at the like own the podium, and Canada has really started to like go up in terms of medal counts and stuff since that in Vancouver. But it definitely has to continue.
With women's professional sports coming more to the forefront as well, you mentioned PWHL, there's the WNBA. Now there is something that is on the horizon where young women can aspire to. They can try and continue to work on their skills, continue to develop, whether it be under the tutelage of an expert, a trainer, whatever the case may be. But it's also a thing where they don't have that stigma of being that weird girl that's always dribbling in the backyard. Like, why are you doing that? Where are you going to go? Now
Right.
there's the WNBA, and the same with the PWHL, which continues to grow. There's going to be more teams in the future. So girls who played hockey, especially in boys leagues, are going to have a reason to be there instead of being that weird girl that wants to play with the boys, that stigma from back in the day, right?
And honestly,
Mhm.
I don't even
Or they
think
just
for the little ones, it's
Sorry, go
not
ahead.
even just about, wanting to play in the PWHL or wanting to play in the World Cup of Rugby. It's just that representation. Like I teared up watching a video of a dad holding his little girl on his shoulders watching the England ladies like raise the trophy. And she was probably
Mhm.
like 6 years old or 5 years old, and she was just ecstatic. And it just she may not even play rugby, but it's just so important to see that happen and to see that level of competition and see 80,000 people cheering for those women. Like, I just think that's so important because I always tell my son, like, we're not playing hockey because you want to play in the NHL. Like, that can't be why you want to play. We're we're gonna play
Mhm.
because you love to have fun and you enjoy it. But like all they see is the Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and all of that, right? So I just think having that for girls, there's so much attrition in girls' sports in the teen years even. And so all of those pieces, however they are taken in by these little girls or teenagers or whatever, they're so important because they get to see, hey, that like I can cheer for that, or I see myself in that person, or I could maybe do that one day be it any sport. It's so important. And I love to see it. It's so awesome to see 80,000 people cheering for rugby. Like, it's amazing.
And I always use this. The girls have heard this way too many times, but I use it all the time because it is like such a good example of representation. When I was younger, my parents asked me if I wanted to play hockey, and I said no, it is a boys' sport because I didn't know any girls that played hockey. And if that doesn't convince you right there that representation is important, then give your head a shake, because that was the only reason I didn't play, because I didn't think girls played.
And the loss of like much talent that we could have seen precede the girls that we're seeing now. And
I know, hell of an athlete here. Like, what could have been?
Quinn Phillips could have been the next like Poulin.
Yeah.
We had such a good conversation with Jen Kish, who is of rugby Canadian fame. She won a bronze medal with rugby sevens, and she played on a boys football team because there was no women's rugby back then. It's just really cool. Her story is incredible too. And that's just another example of like, look, yeah, when you give them somewhere to play, they'll come and play.
Was Jen, was that the episode where you also talked about Bill 29?
It is, yeah.
Yes? Okay. That was a great episode.
Thank you. Very, very important conversation that needs to continue happening, especially in this province, because this province is when you look at something like that, pretty scary.
It's pretty scary. And it's also like, hey, maybe we could fix healthcare and not focus on this pointless exercise for the purpose of pandering to a small base. But whatever, I'm not going to get into it.
It's just, it's certainly not doing anything to help what we're talking about. It's kind of working against, keeping girls in sport. And I think in terms of the context of this conversation, it's just goes hand in hand. Like, you see other provinces investing and supporting and doing all those things to kind of lift girls in sport. This Bill 29 just absolutely cuts it at the knees.
Does the opposite of that, which is unfortunate. Also, Claire, I gotta say, I do appreciate you as a parent telling your son that the purpose of him playing hockey isn't to make it to the NHL, because living in Edmonton, I wish more parents had that mentality. Because living in Edmonton, like, parents are just like, we're on the NHL track, and it gets so intense, and that scares me for putting kids in hockey.
Totally. And like going back to women in sport and the representation, we went to that PWHL game that came to Edmonton, Ottawa Charge versus Toronto Scepters. I just bought my rivalry tickets for December, Canada versus USA women. It's going to be amazing. And I bring him we went to the WNBA game. He has such a respect for women's sports. It's not just the girls that get something from it. He was up at the PWHL game with a sign and got to meet some of the players. He was super excited. And he was saying, he loved just that it's a different kind of game too. He's like, I love how technical PWHL is compared to like all, it's just a different kind of play, and he loves both. But how cool is that for a 12-year-old to notice?
Boys watching Caitlin Clark, like they're just watching one of the best athletes do their thing, right?
Yeah,
and
they don't
admiring
see it
that.
as, oh, girls can't play.
They
It's just
see it as, like,
different. Yeah.
So the growth of women's professional sport, and too many times you'll hear people say something about, well, it's not as good as men, or but the thing is, whether you're trying to appeal to someone who has been a sports fan all their life and is in a demographic of 25-54 or 30-54, or in my demographic 60, where we didn't grow up watching women's sports, we grew up watching men's sports. But the importance of you taking your 12-year-old to women's sporting events and seeing a crowd of people, 17, 18, 20,000 people cheering for women, make that mentality, make that connection, so that they understand that they are there seeing something remarkable. And yes, you can cheer for women in that, like, I mean,
100%.
where it hasn't been done before, right?
You're cheering for a professional athlete who is, that's just it. Totally.
Well, and I remember having a conversation with some kids in high school when I was still working at Global, and the one guy was like, well, like I don't want to watch it. And I said, well, how do you know? You don't see it.
Mhm.
You don't know the level of these women. You don't know what they can do. You haven't seen it because it hasn't been delivered to you yet. Right. And now people are seeing it, and it can be a different game, but we're different sexes, like it should be a different game.
It should be, yeah.
Now you have variety,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, there's lots of things that women do that men cannot do, right? And there's things that men do that women cannot do. That is just biology.
Yeah.
Reluctantly.
Camp for a Cause YEG is a very important event October 18th at a soon-to-be-disclosed location in Edmonton, supporting the Mental Health Foundation. Brady Campbell is my next guest on a bonus episode Friday morning on the podcast. If you'd like tickets, email brady@campforacauseyeg.com.
Reluctantly.
Okay, so we're over 40 minutes in, and the name of the podcast is NHL Launch. So I suppose,
All right. Here we go.
At some
We
point,
had this conversation with the bits.
we should talk about the NHL. My first question for all three of you is: have you ordered your third jersey yet?
Oh, do you guys think it deserves all this controversy? I mean, I don't love it. I don't hate it. Could it have been better? Probably. Could it have been worse? Definitely. Like,
I thought you liked it, Claire. I thought you were
I don't
like
mind it.
Team New Jersey.
I don't mind it. I think it's
I think
nice.
it's fine.
People are hating on it.
I know. And I had people texting me like from Calgary, because I grew up there. And so I had people texting me from Calgary being like, I'm sure you probably hate this. And I was like, oh, I mean, I didn't automatically hate it. But now you got me thinking, is it bad? I think it's fine. I also will say there was a lot of hate for the Heritage Classic jersey from a few years ago.
I love it.
People were really hating on that. And it's like one of my favorite jerseys now, even still. Like people love it now. And I don't know. Everyone's going to be loud and negative, and there's always trolls. I think the jersey's fine.
I will say this.
Oh,
have they ever released a third jersey that anybody has not complained about?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. People love to hate. People love to be trolls about it.
They did something though that I think was a miss. And I don't know if you all caught this.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Yes. The number 25 with the C was a unfortunate oversight, because the reason being 2025, many would say it's the 2026 season, but it is currently 2025, which is why they put the 25 with the C on it. But in an era of high nerves, or during a time of very high nerves, and everybody's holding their breath around Connor McDavid, very poor timing and a bit of an oversight, I think, because
it's
not only do we not want Nurse to be the captain, but that's another discussion.
Speak for yourself.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, not like we're the most superstitious fan base out there or anything.
All it's going to take, Terry, I think, is one big win in that jersey, and everything's fine.
100%, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Connor situation. There's a lot of people thought it would have been done by now. It's October and it's not done. And Connor has got all the balls in his court, in his pocket, in his basketball court.
Where are those balls, Terry?
Yeah, I was like, where are you going with this?
He's got balls in his sauna. He's got he has got all of the balls.
The balls on his heated driveway.
Yes. Yep. There are I know
balls everywhere.
There are balls everywhere, but they're all at Connor's place, and the Oilers. But I don't think it's about money. I think it's about him being comfortable with the win. So I guess that's part one of what we can talk about. But part two is this Kiprasov douchebag for Minnesota, who is holding out for money, and not one time has ever mentioned the fact that he wants to be in a situation where he can win a Stanley Cup. He just wants money. I want to be the highest paid player in the league. If you happen to be listening to this portion of the podcast with the bits, any reference to Kirill Kaprizov signing with the Minnesota Wild has been left in the podcast, even though we finished recording the podcast about 11 minutes before it was announced that Kaprizov had signed with Minnesota on the day that it happened. So we understand it's all said and done, $17 million, the highest contract in the NHL, but I left it all in the podcast because it was A, funny, B, entertaining, and C, they all had opinions on it too. So I thought it was great to leave it in. So that's the difference. I had a conversation with my son and his bandmates the other day about this. You know, the difference between Connor, who wants to win a Stanley Cup, and Kaprizov, who wants to be is it Kaprizov or who am I?
Yeah, Kaprizov.
Kaprizov,
Yeah.
yeah. He just wants to be the highest paid player in the NHL.
So,
douche nozzle.
In my opinion, and I think others share it, that is, to me, that's the only thing that's stopping McDavid from signing right now. I mean, sure, the comfort level on like how long of an extension and all of those things are for sure in play here, but it is a stare down between him and Kaprizov about Connor wanting, and I don't think Connor, I think it's the NHLPA wants Connor to be the top paid player. So I don't see a scenario where his camp isn't saying, wait for that deal to finish before you sign yours. I just don't see.
Interesting.
Yeah, why wouldn't, I mean, the NHL, I guarantee McDavid would take less, and NHLPA doesn't want him to. And they don't want Kaprizov to be the top paid player, because then what does that do? And so to me, he's just waiting. As soon as Kaprizov is paid and signed, Connor gets a deal.
That's not necessarily where my head was at, but that's interesting. I think, yeah.
When McDavid talks about, we've earned this time. To me, it's like the subtext, and this is a leap or whatever, but he's earned it to be the top player, the top paid player. So why wouldn't he wait? I don't think he's going anywhere.
I suppose I thought maybe he had concerns over, the team and just the makeup of the team and how he's going to get them to a win. Like what is in place for him to get to a Stanley Cup, right? So I didn't know that I didn't necessarily think it was just money. I mean, all money is always involved,
Of course.
I just wasn't, in my mind, that was the top priority. But when we met last time on this podcast, I think we were still in the playoffs. And if you had said like it's going to be October and McDavid hasn't signed yet, I would have probably laughed and said, okay, like, I mean, that I would have assumed that, we would have died by then.
Yeah, it's stressful
from
Don't get me
anxiety.
wrong. Yeah.
Well, I can't believe it. Here I am editing the podcast, getting it all ready for release on Tuesday, October 7th, as we anticipate the first game between the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames to kick off the 2025 Stanley Cup, NHL season, and hopefully, trip to the Stanley Cup Finals. And sure enough, what happens? I mean, we recorded it and literally finished recording 12 minutes later. The Kaprizov deal happened, and now here I am editing it, getting ready, and I get an email at 11 o'clock this morning saying that the Oilers have signed Connor McDavid to a 2-year extension at an average of $12.5 million per year. There's probably bonuses and all kinds of stuff in there, but 2 years. So we will carry on with the podcast, and that's what happens when you record 5 days before the day it's going to be released.
It's stressful. But his life partner is settled here in Edmonton. So I think
he's so invested in the Oilers organization. Like, they have built this team around what he wants. I truly believe that. I think he has a lot of influence and say here. I don't know that he would get that everywhere else. And I mean, like, look at their coach hiring. Look at, like, his agent has worked hard to set roots here for him. And so for him to just bail out would be so shocking.
See, my thing is, though, is he's been on the other end of like absolute disaster in the
Mhm.
city with this
Mhm.
team, and he never ever wants to go back there.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you know what? It's interesting that you bring that up, Claire. I hadn't really thought about that. And maybe it is part of it. He's made a lot of money though, and I don't want him to take influence from the PA that he should be the highest paid player or anything like that, because it's also about, like, he knows that this roster has to be built not just with him and Leon, and he's
Mhm.
too smart of a hockey guy to not know that. I just think he just wants to make sure that this organization continues to strive for greatness and
Mhm.
doesn't fall back to the 30 win seasons. And he's breaking his collarbone, and he's been through so much with this organization.
Mhm.
And I think it's the greatest thing for Edmonton and Oilers fans and the Oilers organization to have a guy basically saying, "You got to stay good or I'm gone." Like, we can't ask
Quinn
for
said
anything
it
else.
Quinn
Sorry,
said it
Paulina.
a lot better than I did, but that is exactly what I think is happening. He needs to know that there is hope for a win with this organization, and he's completely allowed to have concerns. He's the best player in the world. He should have concerns over, you look over at the Florida Panthers and what they've achieved. They're, I mean, I hate them, but I have
Mhm.
to respect the organization because what they've done, it's pretty impressive. So, but it's fine. He's gonna sign.
Mhm.
Draisaitl's here. He's got to stay here.
Have any of you been to Bar Trove?
Not yet.
I have actually.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I did go for one quick drink. And then I went into Trove Living, and there was a $29,000 sofa.
Did you
I'll
get it?
take two.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Did
was
you get
just
it?
a bit too big for my condo. That was just kind of what held
Shoot.
me back. Yeah.
Yeah, when you put your $29,000 sofa in the corner and you can't open the other side of your fridge, you can only open the one side. It's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, the only way I can get to access it is by crawling over the top because all the walkway in my living room is taken.
She was at the CFR event that Quinn and I were at a couple weeks ago, not even just the launching of the media for Canadian Finals Rodeo. She's a sports club atelier is doing a crossover with Canadian Finals Rodeo. I mean, she was there. Like, I know she's not doing that only out of the goodness of her heart, but she's taking part, and she was at this media event and promoting her apparel. And I just think that we can't forget that she's laying down some roots here too. And I mean, she could do that anywhere for sure. She could pick it up and move it, but yeah, I don't know. We're not used to seeing that, I don't think, from people. And why would you do that if you were, about to pull the chute on Edmonton?
And I think it's so cool what she's done with Sports Club Atelier.
It is, for
with
sure.
Oilers merch. Like we don't get that, or other teams don't really get that, which is it's very cool. So when I said like his life partner is invested here, Lauren, but I was actually talking about Draisaitl, but
Yeah.
I was, but he's signed on. Like obviously, like Connor's not going to leave his guy. But Lauren is also investing in the team and the city in a
Mhm.
very tangible way. And I think that's really cool to see. And so I think we're fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine, you guys.
Terry, what do
He'll
you
be-
think?
He'll be
Yeah.
signed by Christmas.
By the time this episode is released, all of this will be unusable, and I will be okay with it.
Well, I love hearing you talk about it. I love hearing all kinds of other people talk about it, because there's obvious things that you three are exposed to and attend that I don't, or vice versa. And having other people chime in with their thoughts on it. And I remember the last podcast. We were in the playoffs, so we were talking about the Oilers, and we were talking about Stu and Claire. You said he's our shitty goalie, and
Yeah.
that was a very amusing and widely watched promo for Reluctantly podcast. But that was one of the things I wanted to bring up as we get into the NHL season starting on October 8th with Calgary visiting Edmonton. the Oilers didn't do anything with their goaltender situation. What do the three of you think about
Yet
that?
again.
Holy cow. We are really batting 1,000 for this, aren't we? Again, this podcast being released on Tuesday, October the 7th, one day before the Oilers kick off their NHL season against the Calgary Flames. And we just mentioned again the goalie situation. Well, we all know that over this past weekend, we saw Connor Ingram being picked up by the Edmonton Oilers. So just ignore this part about the Oilers doing nothing about a goaltender in their situation.
For the third year in a row, two after going to Stanley Cup final. I guess in a sense, they did do something with their goalie situation because they did hire a new goalie coach. I have to be honest, I am quite intrigued to see if that does make a difference. I've known Dustin Schwartz for years. I adore him. I like from some of the things that I've seen with him, maybe a little high stress, a little high strung, maybe just a different voice, because we're talking about such a heady position at the end of the day. It is 92% mental, I'm quite sure. Maybe a little bit less with Stu because we got to work on his lateral movement. But
I have so much to say, but it's okay. I'll wait.
No, you know what? I'm intrigued to see. Maybe that's the silver bullet, right? Because we've seen flashes of brilliance from Stuart Skinner. It's just the consistency that isn't there. And maybe this
is it's always a good sign when your voice goes up 10 octaves. Like me and the contract signing. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
Fine. I gotta say something on this. I'm not wearing my number 74 hat today, but I'm always a little bit more on the optimistic side of our goalie situation, you could say. I've said before, Stuart is really young and he's still at the, earlier stages of his career. So, and we have seen flashes of brilliance from him. So I think there is a very real possibility that we just see him getting better and better. Maybe this year Stu blows us all away. And I will say reports coming from, there's reports about his physical shift that he's made. He's dropped about 15 pounds. He's a little bit more agile in the net. So, maybe there's that side of it, but then this new goalie coach, I might have read somewhere, and you guys might know a little bit more about the new coach, but he's really focused, as I'm sure most of them are, to an extent. He's really focused on that confidence building for the position, which I think is something that Stu needs. So I'm feeling optimistic about the goalie situation going into this year.
I will always say too, honestly, we're in a weird time with goalies. There's just not a lot of great goalies out there at the moment. There's not a lot of, it's not like 31 teams have like a rock solid number one guy and the Oilers don't. So goaltending is a weird position at the moment. There's
That's
not a lot of really great ones.
They're doing other stuff around it too. Like I think that their power play will be back to an elite level this year, hopefully. They're working on their defense. Their
defense is a lot better in terms of bodies on the blue line. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that Paul Coffey shift. I think he was well liked by a lot of the players and fans alike, of course. But yeah, I mean they're making other moves around him that should also hopefully have a positive impact on his net minding abilities. But I have hope in Stu.
In Stu we trust. And Paulina,
in Stu we hope is actually what it is. In Stu we hope.
I kind of share your sentiment, and the Edmonton Oilers organization has a history of giving up on goalies during their developmental process. So let's hope that it doesn't happen. I'm a Stu fan too, and maybe it's 74% mental with Stu, just to make reference to.
Oh, interesting. Wink.
Yeah, I like that. Well done. Yeah.
I do think that it's part of it.
Do you anticipate, just one last NHL question, do you anticipate another Edmonton, Florida Stanley Cup final, or do you think somebody else is going to slide in?
I mean, Dallas has a good team. Vegas has a good team.
Here's my thing. The Oilers walked through the West
Yeah.
last year. So like they had like their hardest series was against LA because they went down 2-0.
This matchup third time in a row though, but like how like we got to beat them in the third time. It's the ultimate, you know.
Yeah. I have
Really?
to start to wonder, like, I know Florida's so good. I just don't know how you play that long, that many years in a row. Like, at some point, it's got to catch up with them. But they've also mastered the, like, just sneak into the playoffs, you know? Just get in there and then you can do some damage.
They're a very well-oiled machine and like the organization, but I'm with Quinn in that like I just don't know how the players can keep that going another year. I don't think Florida's going to be in the Stanley Cup. I'm just going to hot take early prediction. I don't think that they're going to do a three-peat. It's my sense. I think Kachuk was fine last year. He wasn't the star by any means. They have other stars like Brad Marchand, and I
No
honestly,
Barkov this
I'll
He's
year.
getting
wish
older, though.
he's getting
No
old, and like
no
he's
Barkov.
one like weird turn or like weird fall away from like being injured for the season. Like
No way, man. He has such a low center of gravity.
Fair.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I think, Paulina, you were referencing me crossing the street again. One wrong turn and I fall down. And
But his legs are
one
so
slight twist of the ankle, he's gone. Like he crumbles like that toy that you were talking about. And I just don't know that I see it for them again. That doesn't mean I see it for the Oilers again. I hope to death, like every day, that that's what's going to happen, that they'll be in the Stanley Cup final. But I don't think we're going to see them face off for the third time.
Do you guys think the Oilers are a for sure for a third time in the final?
I'm worried about scoring. I think that is probably a fairly substantial concern just with some of the guys that they lost, you know, like with Corey Perry, they didn't have Evander Kane all regular season, but Connor Brown as well. Sounds like Mangiapane is kind of coming in and going to bring kind of the same energy as Connor Brown for the dressing room, which I think is good. And then you just have to hope, like, you can't pressure Howard or Savoy too much. But you got to hope that they start to develop because, you know, Howard has that potential to score a lot of goals. But I'm a little worried about scoring.
But do you think that this is what McDavid's saying in his contract negotiations? Like these are the concerns that he's raising?
Yeah,
probably. Hopefully.
I'll tell you something. If they keep Trent Frederick on that line with McDavid and Draisaitl, I mean, he just like the other night, he just stands in front of the net. Anything that gets shot at him hits in between the shoulder blades, drops down between his legs, and he's going to be able to pound it in. He could get 35 goals this year if he ends up being a steady on that line.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily known as like a super offensive guy, but it'll be interesting to see because, you know, also he obviously joined the team last year after an injury and joined late. So I do have a bit of hope for him, but I don't know if he has that. But you're right, maybe it's the ugly goal. And we definitely need Hyman back. Hyman needs to chip in big time this year, and Nuge needs to chip in a lot more than he did last year.
I swear to God, Evan Bouchard is going to take so many high slap shots that are going to hit Trent Frederick right in the chest or right in the oil drop, right between the shoulder blades, right in the hip, and then are going to drop down and he's going to get garbage goals all season long.
I love that.
Just tap him in. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's call it.
Okay. Real quick, we've got the Major League Baseball playoffs coming up. Postseason is on the way. Toronto Blue Jays win their division, and they have the bye in the playoffs. So what are I don't know if you followed as closely as you do NFL football or hockey, but what are your thoughts real quick on the Blue Jays going into the postseason?
I didn't like the way they ended their season. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. They had to string some wins together to obviously take the AL East. Their rotation struggled a little bit. Their bullpen struggled a little bit. And then the bats can be a little inconsistent. But that said, They found ways to win when they really needed to, which I think is important. And I have like really, really high hopes that the Yankees and Red Sox are just going to beat each other up. I hope that they go through that freaking bullpen like crazy and they screw their rotation. And Aaron Judge maybe dislocates the shoulder. Oh, I shouldn't wish for injuries. You got to beat the best to be the best.
See? There you go. I'm not the only monster here.
Yeah. So you know what? I hope Aaron Judge is great, but I think the Jays are better. I think they are poised. I think they are poised to do some big things. And, home field advantage is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
First time in 10 years. I mean, they've got to be motivated. They were celebrating like they won.
Baseball. They're so funny.
Oh, man. But yeah.
Ski goggles and champagne.
Totally.
What shit that is.
Totally. I was like, wow, you guys still got some winning to do. I love the underdog story too, because they didn't really have what they thought they needed, I don't think, to get here. And like you said, Quinn, to not have a good end of their season, it was pretty dismal there for several weeks. So yeah, happy for them. Happy to see, Toronto in the mix, even if I know Quinn doesn't like Toronto, but I think we can still cheer for the Canadians.
Paulina, any thoughts on the Blue Jays? Or
I was cheering for Baltimore, so
you and your birds.
Yep.
Love big bird guy. Hey, I'm mid-30s. I had to choose a personality, and birds is one of those things that you choose in your mid-30s. So I like Baltimore because I have friends in Baltimore now, and one of them works for the Orioles. So I've been cheering for them. But yeah, sure, go Blue Jays. That's a bird too. So here, and they're Canadian. So I'm not as invested, but I'm fine.
Also, Bo Bichette will be a game changer once he's back. I think that'll be a really solid addition back into the lineup. And I don't know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be fun. 162 games comes down to the last game of the year. Baseball is the weirdest sport in the world.
Yeah.
And let's go.
I have a quick question. I know this is not my podcast, but
We've been asking a lot of those.
What is your most hated baseball team? I'm just curious.
New York Yankees.
Yeah. Okay. I had a feeling it was going to be Yankees. Okay. It's either Yankees or the Red Sox that I get from people. What about you, Terry?
Dodgers. Never liked the Dodgers. I thought Tommy Lasorda was an ass.
He kind of was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vin Scully was the ultimate broadcaster. The number of quality naps I took on my couch listening to Vin Scully is like, you can't count that high.
I had no idea you were a 61-year-old man.
You didn't?
Well, all secrets come out eventually.
Napping to baseball with Vin Scully.
I thought that's all you did do with baseball.
And Paulina, you being in your mid-30s and now you've got a baby, in 10 years, you're going to be that person standing in your front window saying, the Cuthbertsons are aerating.
Honey, we got to aerate. We're going to miss the window.
I'll be eating trail mix out of my hand like this, just like
waiting for birds.
Standing inches in front of the TV and then immediately sitting in a chair, sleeping like this.
No,
baseball.
This is what we're going to do with Paulina. No, I'm going to take the trail mix in a different direction. You're going to have trail mix in the palm of your hand. You're going to be wearing ski goggles because you're going to be excited to see what birds come for your trail mix. You're going to be birding.
Right. Sorry. Who do I think I am watching TV? I'm going to be out scouting new birds in the wild.
You won't believe the variety I saw today, honey.
See this nuthatch.
That species is never here at this time of the year.
Exactly. I can't wait for that time in Paulina's life.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much, you three. It's always fun to talk about everything and sports.
Thank you for having us.
Sports.
Yeah. We appreciate it. And we still need to return the favor and get you on our show. So we'll do that.
We promise you'll be allowed to ask more questions.
No, that's the way. This is the way I like it. I just sit here and watch.
Yeah.
It's like starting a lawnmower. You just pull it and watch it go.
That's right.
Well,
Thanks,
we're
Some
good.
Terry.
lawnmowers work.
I don't think so. That's not safe.
I wouldn't know. I don't do that in my house.
I have a condo.
Yeah.
We're really going off the rails again, Terry.
Reluctantly.
This podcast reluctantly sponsored by ThompsonMortgages.com. When you contact them, please tell them you heard about them on the Reluctantly podcast. Don't just sign your renewal. Contact Mike and everyone at ThompsonMortgages.com and make sure you get the next term that works for you.
Reluctantly.